Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to share something actually I wish I knew years and years ago. It's how to create success once you've awakened. If you know you're meant for greater levels of success, you know you're not where you're meant to be, and you've increased your consciousness, you've healed parts of you, you've seen the conditioning that keeps us small, that keeps us in fear, lack, and scarcity, and you know you're ready for more and you know you want more, but you can't seem to get there. There's a missing piece that is not talked about, honestly, that I see anywhere at all. I had to figure this out for myself. I had to go through this myself to actually see how this worked. And I actually believe that this is new in many ways because there's so many people who are waking up now and going, I want more. I'm meant for more. There's more I'm meant to be doing, right? So there's this next phase that we need to see. So I'm going to take this to the 50,000 foot level and tell you that there are like three phases that you go through if you, as a soul, have decided to wake up in this incarnation. Okay, there's actually three phases. Most people see two. Okay, and this is where you can get stuck. Okay, so most people only see two, but it's actually three. So the first phase of life, okay, and like almost like a version of yourself that you create within that phase. That's the you that did everything to fit in, who just went along with the rules because we thought that's how life worked, right? So you had a plan, you grew up somewhere in a family and they told you this is what you have to do, and you went and you did that and you executed it and you went along for a long time until at some point there was something that made you go, well, hey, wait a minute here. Something's not adding up. The math's not mathing. What's going on here? Okay. That's the first phase of life. And we all remember that. We're just running on programming. We're just running on what we're supposed to do, what we should do. We try to fit in. We're following all the rules that we were taught and told how to create success. Okay. That's the first phase. The second phase, which is where most people are in, well, certainly the ones who listen to me this is probably you, but let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what phase you feel like you're in, is where you wake up and you've realized, okay, so much of what I thought was how reality worked isn't. I see where I've held myself back. I see some of the traumas that have been running in the background. I see that there's more. I see the world is not the way I was taught and told it was be. You start to have all these awarenesses, right? And it takes energy and it takes effort. Okay, it really does. We have to acknowledge that how much energy and effort and really courage it takes to be in that second phase. It's not a minor thing, okay? It really, really isn't. And so what happens when we get to this phase is we realize we want more. We realize there actually is more. And we try to create differently. We try to do things differently. We can spend an awful lot of time trying to figure out, well, how do I get to that next level? Okay, I know I'm this limitless being. I know I have all this potential. I know this is all available to me. And we try to do things in the physical. We try to make things happen. And often we just end up frustrated, exhausted, and burned out and feeling defeated. Okay. Now, the reason this happens is because we think that once you've woken up, once you've raised your consciousness, that's it. And so things will just start gliding in once we have clearer thoughts, once we see things differently. We're kind of sold this, to be honest, in the last number of years, that once you've seen that, you can start to create a different reality. Now, of course you can, and things can get easier. But if you try to do those things from the second phase, from the identity level that you are in that second phase, because who you are being is like part of that phase, right? Who you are being matches the phase. If you try to do it from the person that you are in phase 2, it doesn't work very well. You can achieve some things, 100%. You can start to almost, it feels like sometimes like you've cracked the door open and you start to see potential, but then all of a sudden the door slams again. This happens a lot if you're in phase 2 and you think, okay, I'm going to take these action steps. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to whatever that looks like in my life. And you start to take steps and you see potential. It's the frustrating thing about phase 2 is you actually see a lot of potential And sometimes you get like a small taste of it, but then it feels like it just kind of slips away again. Like you can't ever actually like really ground it in. Like doesn't really become your full existence. So you're not in phase one anymore where you were just going along, right? Like you're conditioned to do. And you're not at the life that you know you can have. You're just in this middle space. And I want to emphasize that this is a middle space. This is not the final place. Okay, this is not the final resting ground. And the problem here is we don't know there is a phase three, and there are things that you need to do to get you to phase three. I'm not going to go too deep into all the energetics and how to get there and all that, because this would be a very long video. It's actually, that's a lot of what I do with my clients. I teach some of this in my master classes. Like this is way more in depth than I can share on a video, but I want to share what needs to change between phase two and phase three so you can start manifesting and creating and have success that sticks, that actually feels like where you actually feel like I've made it. This is it, right? And I don't believe we actually ever feel like we fully made it, but there is and there are moments where when you go into phase three where you're like, wow, I did it. I got here. And it's not so much the physical manifestations, it's actually how you feel as a person. But of course, the physical manifestations do come. So what needs to happen to get from phase two to phase three? And you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to explain it in a completely different way than you've ever heard me explain it before. You have to reclaim your power. And you've heard me say this a million times. But I really want you to clear any judgments about what you've thought about what this means or anything else, because we're going to talk about this a little bit from an energetic perspective. And I'm going to give you some examples from the real world to really anchor it in. So in this life, you were taught to suppress your power. Okay? If you can kind of think of it this way, you've got all this power in you. And what we're supposed to do, how we were actually created, was we were meant to express this. Okay? It was meant to come out. But what we're taught is to stuff it down, right? So what does this look like in real terms? It's hiding what you really think, hiding what you really feel, not saying what you really want, not doing what you really want, trying to fit in, trying not to stand out, all the things that we were programmed to do in this life. Every single time you do any of those things, you suppress all your power down. Now, it doesn't go away. You've heard me say this before. It doesn't go away. But what's really important to note is that it takes a lot, and I mean a lot, of energy and strength and life force energy for you to keep pushing down your power. People don't realize this. It takes a lot from you. So if you're in phase two right now and you're like, oh God, I'm exhausted, I can't do anymore. Like, give me my manifestations. Give me the things that I want. Like, I know I'm meant for more, but I'm just so flippin' exhausted. I want you to consider how much energy and strength, physical energy, but also like life force energy, it's actually taking you to hold down your power. Most people do not have any concept of how much work it takes. And in one of my recent videos, I gave the analogy of a bottle of Coke. When you shake it and the carbonation wants to leave, think of that it actually has a metal cap alongside a thick wall of a bottle to hold in that carbonation. That's what it takes for you to hold all your power in. It's taking everything out of you. So when you try to go do something, you can maybe do like an eighth of what you're actually capable of if all your power was released. And that's because of two reasons. First of all, think of all the power and strength it takes to hold it down. That's an energy, right? But also, imagine if you had access to that power. It's called power for a reason. It's not random that we call it power. It's actually going to help propel you forward. It's actually it's like your engine. So what we're really doing is we've got our foot on the gas and we've got our foot on the brake. and we're spinning our wheels. And you know it because you can feel it, right? All the energy, all the gas that you're burning in the tank, it's just disappearing, right? And you're not going anywhere because you got the foot on the brake. It's exhausting. So first of all, this is huge. This is huge. When you start to reclaim your power, express it, and let it out, your entire reality changes because all of a sudden you have all this energy and all this power. Okay? Now, the other part of this is when you are suppressing all your power, it is taking up space within you. Okay? If you can think of your body, and I don't know all the technical terms to use. I'm just going to use like everyday kind of language to explain this because I think that's the most helpful right now. If you can imagine, you have only so much space inside of you. Okay? When you're holding all that power down, what it's doing is it's taking up space inside of you. Okay? Just think of it that way. Now, I'm going to give you the analogy of a plant. So imagine right now you go to like a garden center. It's spring now when I'm recording this, and you buy like those little seedlings, it's like a tomato plant or something, right? You're like, I want to grow some tomatoes. And you bring that home, it's in that little package. And of course, you're supposed to replant it, right? In your garden, a bigger container, whatever, because the roots needs to come down, right? But imagine you came home and you took that little seedling in that little container and you're like, well, I don't really have a bigger container. So I'm just going to put it like in a mug in my kitchen. I don't have a planter. I'm just going to stick it in a mug. Okay. So you take that little seedling and you stuff it into this little mug that you've got. You've had to get rid of some soil because your mug is small. And you lovingly put that little seedling on the windowsill till it gets warm outside. All the sunshine comes in. You water it. You fertilize it. You're giving it all this love. And weeks go by and you're like, it's growing, but it's not really doing what I thought it would. And then it comes time for it to actually produce like the tomatoes, the manifestation, the goal, the thing you want. And you're like, it's not bringing me tomatoes. Like, what the actual heck? And we know the reason is it didn't have enough soil to root into. Okay. It was too shallow. It was just too shallow. There wasn't enough dirt for it to spread its roots to really ground and become a very stable plant. Because when it could do that, and if it could do that, what would happen? Well, the stalk would be thicker, right? The leaves would be bigger. They would be more lush. The whole plant would just get bigger. It would be strong and healthy and vital. So when tomatoes came, it will be able to hold it. I mean, sometimes you have to stake tomatoes, I know, but you know what I mean? Like, it would be really strong. It would be able to hold, and you'd be able to actually take the tomatoes from it. You would actually have the fruits of your labor and the fruits of this plant. This is what happens when you stuff all your power down, is your manifestations, the things you're trying to create, they don't have anywhere to root. It's like your system is shallow. It doesn't have the capacity to hold everything that is needed. That is why sometimes you'll take steps and you'll start to see little glimmers. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, it didn't quite go the way I thought it would. Oh, I almost had it. But you don't. It's like your system is too shallow. It doesn't have the space, because once you release that power and you do that and you reclaim your power, what happens is all of a sudden you can now root into things. This is a physical thing, right? Consciousness is mental for sure, but it's also a physical thing. It's an energetic thing. It's a cell thing. It's all of it. Okay. And we ignore often this whole physical part. And I have never, ever heard of anybody talk about it the way I'm talking about it. I'd love to hear your comments down below. But this is how it works. I've lived it. I've experienced it. So the two things happen when you release and express your power. You have more energy, right? Because you've stopped using all your energy to hold down your power, and you have access to that power. And now you actually have the capacity to hold everything that you're already doing, because you're already doing tons of stuff. This is the third phase. Okay. This is the third phase that you need to move into. And I want to give you an example from real life. I said I was going to give you an example. Now, this will blow your mind when you see it, which is why I love it. So, have you ever thought to yourself, you've seen somebody in this world who is completely unconscious, okay? Who might be really selfish, who might be just an arrogant, whatever you want to call them, okay? Just like not at all conscious. And you look at them and they're creating massive amounts of success. You look at them and you think to yourself, what the heck? And they may be completely unaware of anything or anybody. They're just like going out there and they're doing their own thing. And it's maybe made you frustrated. I know before I realized all of this, it used to frustrate the heck out of me. I'm like, here I am, I'm doing all this work. I have raised my frequency. I'm helping the planet. I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm watching somebody over there who doesn't have great intentions, who's like, how are they doing this? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Here's the piece. Well, first of all, they are delusional. I have a whole separate video on that one. I think it's the one before this one, so watch that one as well. But here's the thing. When you hold down your power, one of the biggest ways that you suppress your power and force it down is by caring what people think of you. That person who you might look at as like not conscious, maybe a little full of themselves, all those things, doesn't actually care what anyone thinks of them. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing if they're unconscious and they're selfish, okay? Like that, put that aside. I'm talking about energetics here, okay? The energetics of that person is they're not holding down their power. They don't give a flying what anybody thinks of them. One of the biggest ways you do that is like really, that's when you hold yourself back from being the true you. And this is why authenticity matters. This is why alignment matters. This is why all of this matters. That person who is creating success so unconsciously, they just don't care. Now, when you become conscious, the problem is you end up caring almost too much. You don't want to offend anybody. You want to hurt anybody's feelings. That's phase 2. Can't stay there. What's important to recognize, in case your mind is going, well, that's not cool to not care. It's not that you don't care about others. That's not what I'm saying. It's you don't care what others think of you. You care what you think of you. That's the shift. That's a massive shift. You must care what you think of you. If someone else doesn't like it, that's on them. It's not about you. Whatever. I don't care. And it's simple, but it's not easy when you've been conditioned to fit in. Phase 1, all about conditioning, all about conditioning, all about conditioning, right? Fitting in. That's all what it's about. When you get to phase 3, you've woken up now, but now you got to say, I don't really give a damn what anyone thinks of me. It's my life. I'm going to create it. This is where you choose you. And it's for all these reasons, right? Because you release your power, you reclaim your power, you choose alignment, you do all of these things that I talk about so often. This is why I have the masterclasses, and I will link them below here. These are key, you guys. These are so important. I'm creating these masterclasses for you to dive into them. They're not abstract. These are teachings, okay? These are teaching classes. This is how you do phase 3. You have to reclaim your power, and so much is just not caring what anyone thinks of you. That is one of the most liberating things you can ever do. You will not believe how much energy gets freed up and how free you will feel. You'll just feel like a completely different person because you'll be a completely different person. Completely. We're not talking same at all. Phase 3 is a completely different person. We think that we can go from phase 2 to phase 3, just kind of slide into it. You can't. You don't get to have everything just by being conscious and trying to manifest and trying to get to the next level. That's not how this works. Phase 3, where you have everything and you feel alive and energized and joyful, is when you release this. And these are steps. You cannot just kind of slide into it and hope it all is going to happen. But one thing I also want to reiterate here, because it's so important, is if right now you're listening to this and you're going, oh my God, I have to do more. Remember what I said. When you reclaim your power, how much energy you get back. You have the energy. You're just using it in ways that don't serve you. You actually have all the physical and the energetics, the quantum part of that, the energetics of that. You've got them all ready for you. You're just using them in a way that's not serving you. Phase 3 is going, oh, okay, let's not do that anymore. Let's use all that energy and power to actually create. And then you have the roots, the foundation to hold it all, and away you go. And phase 3, oh my gosh. It's just, like I said, I don't even know how to say it in words. And maybe you can just feel into my frequency right now. It's like nothing else you've ever experienced before on this planet. It's just not. It's just, the word that keeps coming to mind is freeing. It's just freeing. When you can say, I don't really care what anybody thinks of me. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to have trust that everything's going to work out exactly how it's meant to. It's a whole different way of living. So I'm going to put the links down below to those master classes. Any questions, of course, send me a message. And also, I do have one-on-one sessions available. I sometimes put the link down there, and not all the time, but I will today for sure. I do 60-minute sessions, and you can sign up for individual sessions. I also have longer mentorship packages, but what some people will actually like to do is they'll just try out one session to see what it's like, to see how, like, what can happen in an hour together. A lot can happen in an hour with me. We move quickly. I'm sure if you listen to my content, you know I move quite quickly. So what they do is they'll try a 1 hour session and then sign up for a longer, like a 3-month or a 6-month. And actually what I do is, if you do a 1 hour session with me and you sign up right away, 2 or 3 or 6 months, when I say right away, I mean within about a week or so, I deduct the cost of that first session. So it's really, it's kind of one of those things where you get it in the end, right? So you don't end up having to pay for it if you sign up for a longer program. So I'm going to put the link both to all my master classes and as well down below to a 60-minute one-on-one session with me. All right, beautiful soul. I would love to hear your takeaways on this. Give me your comments. Share this if it resonates with you. And you know there's people in your reality to help get this message out here. I am relatively new on my YouTube. I would love, if just is the way you can support me too, is just share this. Give it a like, give it a comment. More people need this information. More people need this information. The more of us that go into phase 3, the sooner this world gets out of the freaking chaos it's in, and the sooner more of us are happier, more grounded, and manifesting what we want. And I know you are a new earth leader, a new paradigm leader. So we need as many of us in phase 3. All right, beautiful soul. I'll talk to you soon.